Okay, good morning, everyone. It is August 14th, 2014. It's 11:11. And this is the monthly meeting of the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. I'm Robert Spagnoletti, Chair of the Board, and with me today are Deborah Lathan and Laura Richards, constituting a full quorum of the Board. We are located today at room 540 South, 1 Judiciary Square. We have gone a little bit of in a different order today. We've already held the closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, and I will just start off by saying that we have nothing to report from the closed session in the public session today. So just to the extent that there are people in the room waiting for any report from the closed session, there is nothing to report from the closed session from today. So we will then move to the open portion of the meeting. The report from the Director of Open Government. Ms.
Thank
Hughes.
you. Good morning. In early July, the D.C. Superior Court Judge Nash issued a ruling in a FOIA dispute involving an ANC commissioner making available through FOIA the review of personal emails. The analysis turned on whether the individual is a government official using personal emails to conduct a government business. Of course, this changes significantly the landscape of FOIA, although the mayor's office issued an order advising all agency directors and D.C. government personnel not to conduct their government business on personal email exchanges. This does make available for review personal email addresses. So, information contained in personal emails and on individuals' personal email exchanges. So I had a brief email with the AG's office. I'll try to get more detail for the next meeting, but as of now, the AG's office does plan to appeal that decision. Right. And this is specifically in relation to the ANC commissioner that's very heavily involved with the McMillan project. So this has been hotly debated for some time. Just a reading of the order, it seems that the plaintiff in the case became aware that some emails were exchanged on a personal email address because they happened to see a document. Now, I don't know how the AG's office is going to address this in their appeal, but there was just some slightly different facts. You just can't say on the face because you're a government official, then your personal email will be made available. But this is causing a bit of a ripple at the boards and commissions level. So I'm waiting to hear from the AG's office on how they plan to proceed, and then whether or not they have provided any formal advice to the Office of Boards and Commissions on advising public bodies and members of public bodies. Right. Because so many members of those public bodies are having to use their personal email exchanges if they don't have the proper admin support. Okay. On July 15th, I conducted the annual citywide FOIA officer training. The FOIA Express vendor Ains attended and offered a quick overview of the system. Representatives from the mayor's office also attended to answer questions regarding implementation. The system was publicly launched on July 21st, I believe. Agencies who have licenses to access the system, there are approximately 60 or so, I think the precise number is 66, were required to enter 2 previously processed FOIAs in the public access library ahead of the public launch of the system. I advised agencies to begin including cases received after the soft launch, which was in mid-June, to alleviate any pressure and add to any existing backlog that some of these agencies may have concerning FOIAs. However, they've also been advised that all FOIA requests should, particularly for the start of the fiscal year, should be entered through that system and processed through that system. Those agencies that do not have licenses currently to FOIA Express will forward their request to the Mayor's Correspondence Unit, and the Mayor's Correspondence Unit will make sure that their FOIA requests are properly processed through the system. So that I'm fully versed on the system myself, I attended the 2-day training at Ains headquarters in Gaithersburg last week. It's a very robust system. It requires some steps to get accustomed to, but I think the agencies can definitely do it. I still remain concerned, however, that I don't have administrative rights to the system, so I won't be able to see the progress of the agencies and any difficulty they may be having in processing FOIA requests. The mayor's office did receive a great deal of pushback from agencies that were given licenses, indicating that they didn't feel comfortable with the training that they've received thus far. To date, much of the training has been done over the phone, which is not really conducive to learning the FOIA Express system. So to the mayor's office credit, two of their staff members conducted day-long trainings a couple of weeks ago for those agencies wanting to receive training from this end. So, I mean, they're making every effort to make sure that agencies have all the support that they need. I conducted, in addition to the annual FOIA officer training, I've conducted one-on-one FOIA trainings in the past month with DCHR, OSCE, and the Commission on Arts and Humanities. And I would like to publicly thank the Department of Justice's Office of Information Policy for agreeing to hold a federal FOIA training for MPD personnel. So we've been trying to get that arranged for several months, and it finally occurred in these last few weeks.
That's great.
And from what I understand, the MPD personnel processing FOIA requests, all of the table was full, so I believe all of them were there. And I think that they found it pretty helpful. On August 21st, I will address the attendees of the FOIA Express Users Conference. I'll discuss the initiatives of the Office of Open Government, primarily focusing on transparency and open data issues. Finally, our website for this last month, there were a total of 1,572 visitors with 2,233 sessions. Those numbers represent an increase over last month's numbers. The average session still remains at about 3.5 minutes, with each visitor viewing pages 4 times each. There were a total of 8,300 page views, and the boards and commissions page, which I'm glad to see, saw the most activity with 239 page views for that period. The 2013 BEGA Best Practices Report remains on Madison, D.C. If you all recall from last month's meeting, I announced it just as a test run. We posted on Madison, D.C. The last Best Practices Report. It's going to be taken down on August 18th. It was taken down on August 18th. We didn't receive any comments, but I do anticipate that it will be a useful tool for this upcoming symposium and the Best Practices Report that will write as a result of that symposium.
Right.
Twitter, you all, we're getting more followers on Twitter, which is good every day. So don't forget that anything we want to put out, we can do so.
Watch out, Lady Gaga. We're on YouTube.
We can do so there. The video of the public portion of the June and July public meetings and the video of the public hearing on motions in limine were posted on YouTube. There have been 37 views in the past month. The public hearing video has the most views at 33 views. Additions to the website include the video of last month's board meeting and the Mayor's Transparency, Open Government, and Open Data Directive. That was also posted on our website, Madison, D.C., and GitHub for public comment. For those of you who are not aware of GitHub, that is the space where developers and coders roam. So they're offering their comments and suggestions for additions, improvements to the mayor's directive. Finally, there was a little bit of coverage on the Open Data Directive, and it was online coverage on E Pluribus Unum and on Razor.info. Those are just blogs of people who are very much interested in open data. So it's very much a niche market. And then finally, for those of you who did not see it, there was just a mention of the Office of Open Government in this month's edition of Washington Lawyer Magazine talking about opening up the DC Code and open government. So
that's great.
That concludes the update.
Terrific. Thank you. Mr. Sobin, report of the Director of Government Ethics.
All right. Well, considering that the better part of the month was taken up with a almost 2-week contested proceeding, we had a remarkably productive month. We opened...
And thank you to Mr. Burns for holding the fort down while everybody else was...
Absolutely. We opened 6 new investigations. We closed 3, and so now we have a total of 14 current pending investigations, which is about average for us to have that many open. We are up to date with our publication and reporting requirements. Our trainings, we had one investigator attend an interview training that was conducted by the Office of the Inspector General.
The D.C. Office of Inspector
D.C. Office of the Inspector General. We conducted...
Clarification.
Yeah. We conducted a total of 7 trainings. We did 2 monthly citywide ethics trainings, 1 post-employment training. We did 3 new employee orientations, and I attended a donations roundtable with the Office of Partnership and Grant Services to apprise them and their constituent agencies of the new requirements to comply with the donations agreements. It's been added to our code of conduct, and we've been given enforcement authority for violations. It was well received. People are happy that, well, I should say the Office of Partnership and Grant Services is happy that there's finally some teeth to the donation process. I'm not sure the constituent service agencies were very happy with this, but in any event, we're expecting that they'll at least comply. We issued three formal advisory opinions. We issued a formal advisory opinion to the Chancellor of the D.C. Public Schools, who requested guidance on whether she could serve as an unpaid board member at her alma mater, Georgetown University. Georgetown University, of course, contracts with DCPS, and so we advised that she could, as long as she recused herself from all DCPS matters concerning Georgetown and all matters relating to DCPS, especially with regard to the two contracts. In addition to the advisory opinion that we issued, I spoke to her personally to make sure that she was conscious of her obligations to recuse herself, and with her general counsel to make sure that there was an effective screen in place.
Did that opinion get published?
It just went out yesterday. I signed it yesterday.
Okay. Not until next week.
It'll be up tomorrow. It'll be on the website today
Okay.
and be published in next week's DC Register.
Okay.
She has consented to having her name published.
Because if you redact her name when it says Chancellor every 5 minutes, it'd be tough to figure out.
The other two opinions we did were for the Health Exchange Board. And Health Exchange Board member requested advice on whether he could be permitted to run for an at-large seat on the D.C. Council. The HPX board members are nominated pursuant to the Confirmation Act, and we advise that because the Local Hatch Act does not consider board members who are nominated pursuant to the Confirmation Act, 2F, boards to be employees at all times, the HPX board member is permitted to run for an at-large seat on the D.C. Council. The HPX board chairperson, Diane Lewis, who consented to publication with her name, also requested advice on whether she's permitted to serve as the campaign manager of a fellow HPX board member's campaign for D.C. Council. We advise that because the Local Hatch Act does not preclude HPX board members from taking an active part in political management or in campaigns, that she is therefore permitted to serve as campaign manager. Okay. Again, we've spoken to her and made sure that she understands the obligations. We have two pending requests for advisory opinions, which we'll be getting on shortly. As far as informal advice, we issued 39 responses to requests for informal advice. Again, most of those in the form of email responses. Financial disclosure and lobbyist matters. The staff is reviewing the July 14th lobbyist activity report filings to compile a list of non-filers. For FDS, the staff sent out non-compliance letters and have since received a large number of late FDS filings. Approximately 36% of the letters that were sent out, people have responded to and filed. So that's good.
It is.
Budget matters. We had our budget meeting yesterday, and it seems that we're in better shape than we thought we were, especially considering that the OAH case settled out. So even though we have $853 only left over in personal service funds, we do have $28,000 left over in non-personal service funds. The new fiscal year starts on October 1, so we have between now and then to spend down on necessary equipment and things, and the Director of Open Government and I have been in consultation with one another, and she wants to say a couple words.
So it appears as though that will allow us the opportunity to complete phase 2 of the BEGA website and complete the open government portal.
Terrific.
I mean, of course, in light of the mayor's directive on open data, that changes the concept a bit, but it appears that our current vendor, Incubation, who developed the first phase of the website, will be able to do a significant portion of the work on creating the second phase prior to the end of this current fiscal year.
That's great. Yeah, that is great.
Okay. just a mention about the comprehensive code of conduct. I've completed my meetings with all of the council members, and Mr. Grimaldi is currently working, reviewing the draft of the comprehensive code of conduct with our intern, and continuing research on those issues that our fellow was unable to accomplish before he left. I just want to say he worked really hard on it. I was otherwise preoccupied with things, so I might not have gotten back to him on certain matters as quickly as I would have liked. But in any event, it's still in very, very good shape right now.
Excellent.
We hope to have a draft of the ethics board to review later in the summer. I hope by the end of the month. And we also intend to discuss a number of the sections of the draft comprehensive code of conduct at the October symposium. Now, the symposium, as you know, is going to be on October 22nd. We're partnering with the University of the District of Columbia. We're going to use their facilities. The Director of Open Government and I have been speaking with one another about how best to promote this, the format it'll take. We, at this point, we're envisioning a panel of 4, including the 2 of us and then 2 guest speakers. I'm going to be extending an invitation to the Conflicts of Interest Board Director of New York City and see if he or she would be willing to come down and join the panel. I think Ms. Hughes is thinking similarly about somebody from another jurisdiction to address FOIA and open government issues. And so we're trying to put that all together so we can start promoting the event. Item H, non-confidential investigations, just a quick word. Larry Hicks matter, that matter is pending in Superior Court. There was a status hearing recently at which a briefing schedule was set. The next hearing date is December 19th, 2014 at 10:30 a.m. OAG is representing us in that. It's unclear to me, though, at the moment whether or not the briefing schedule is intended to reach the merits of the appeal or whether it's intended to be about whether or not the case should at all be at the Superior Court and instead in the Court of Appeals.
Right. Well, I mean,
They do both.
OAG certainly is committed to that being their position, right? That it should be before the Court of Appeals.
Yeah, and so are we,
right,
despite what the statute says.
Right. No,
it seems to make sense.
If it is in the Superior Court, is he entitled to a trial de novo?
No.
Okay.
Not in my view.
No, and the statute certainly doesn't provide for that. It's a straight appeal to find out whether, to determine
Yeah, but I'm
whether
just
or not.
asking because it's Superior Court as opposed to the Court of Appeals.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why it really should be in the Court of Appeals is because the Court of Appeals can review the record. The Superior Court is more set up to take evidence, but here the Court of Appeals would be reviewing a record.
And putting aside the policy issue, just as a sort of a technical legal matter about what the council, with all due respect, had the power to do in creating an appellate structure and affecting the jurisdictions of the court, which I think is really how it boils down to at the end of the day.
Right. And then just to mention about the Marion Barry matter, 1055-001, in which there was a negotiated disposition with a fine payment schedule. Councilmember Barry has made his last installment payment on the fine. Therefore, his $13,600 fine has been paid in full.
True.
Okay, and that's all I have for my report.
Any questions from board members? Ms. Latham?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, at this point, we open up our meeting to a public comment, if there is any. If any members of the public wish to address the board, we're happy to hear you now. Okay, hearing none. So should we conclude the meeting at this point?
We have no reason to go into executive session at this point.
Okay. Ms. Hughes, any reason?
No reason. You
Okay,
may
so
adjourn.
the time is 11:31, and the monthly meeting of the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability will be recessed to our September meeting date, which is September 4th. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Grimaldi. Okay, if need be, we'll post it accordingly. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, board members.
Oh, okay. So now, I thought it was a yes. It's on the website.
Darrin? If you have a second. Do you have any, you should look at that social media.
Our view is.